I like to call this clarify the goal of the session. So after you've talked about what mindfulness is, and right before you're about to start meditating, I have found it in my experience, and the data in my study supports this too, I have found that when I clarify what this is about, you know, what the goal of this is, the youth tend to be more focused on it. Now, that doesn't mean you have to set a goal like the goal of this session is to reduce your stress forever. You know, that's not what this is about. You say something like the goal of this session is to focus on your breath and just notice whatever comes up. That's it. That's what I mean when I say clarify the goal of the session. When you do that, it gives them an expectation. Any work with young people, whether you're doing group work or family work or whatever it is, if they don't have any expectation on what they're supposed to do, what's going to happen? They have no expectation, so they're not going to act or do within a way that you envision whatever it is you're offering them. So giving them some form of an expectation is good. Along with that, I like to tell them, when I clarify the goal of the session, I like to tell them, we're going to let's try meditating for like 5 minutes, you know, or something like that. Or I'll tell them how long we're going to do it. And they like that because it gives, just like we said in here, we're going to meditate for 5 to 7 minutes. It gives you an expectation, you know. So clarifying the goal of the situation of the session is good. The next one, number 3, is to not be attached to formal meditation logistics. What I mean by that is you don't need to have the young people in front of you sitting up straight. You don't need to have them closing their eyes. Their feet don't necessarily need to be on the floor. One of the real reasons underlying that is because what is this mindfulness thing? It's about the practice of becoming aware about certain conditions in life inside of me. If I set the condition that I have to close my eyes to be mindful, well, then I'm telling myself and setting up the condition to only be mindful when my eyes are closed. And guess what? I keep my eyes open a lot during the day. You know? So on that sense, you don't need to set up these conditions. Mindfulness is a state of being, like we've all been describing throughout this conference. Another reason is you don't want to ask people to close their eyes if they don't feel comfortable closing their eyes. Because there's people that have trauma, and when they close their eyes, certain images come up. And there's people that that flat out just don't feel safe. I've worked with gang members of rival gangs in the same group. There's no way I'm going to ask them to close their eyes. No way, you know? So it's important to not be attached to those logistics. I had an instructor who worked for MBA a long time ago, and he used to, when he would consult with me, when I was training him a little bit, he used to just get so frustrated and mad. He's like, they're not closing their eyes. What do I do to make them close their eyes? And I was like, try letting them open their eyes, you know? But it was this thing that he developed in himself. He developed this war with this eyes closing thing, and it perpetuated his own suffering. You know, it goes back to that controlling things that are outside of your control. So I said, don't worry about them closing their eyes. It's not a condition to be mindful. It's not a condition to practice this. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of traditions out there that practice meditation with their eyes open, you know? So it's important to stay true to that, you know, a kid may not want to sit up straight or put his hands in a particular way, you know? That kind of the undertone of that is a lot of these kids, you know, when you clarify what meditation is and the goal of it, they think of the word meditation as meaning like a monk or a hippie meditating with their hands a certain way, you know? And these are high-risk kids that are often gangbangers, so it's like they don't want to look like that to the external world. So when you clarify that, when you define mindfulness and clarify the goal of each session, you're kind of, in turn, letting them know, like, yeah, you don't need to hold your hands in a certain way. You don't need to sit in a certain way. You can sit, you can stand, you can, you know, whatever. That mindfulness doesn't have that barrier up against it.